here I'm on the expressway, and where did I get my toys from as a kid? Well, we went to the toy discount store. Now, Play It Again Sports you can go to as well to get stuff. But the thing is, they need to send that stuff out to be cleaned. And this is where dry cleaners and that can get into cleaning sporting goods. And my old client was the equipment manager for the Chicago White Sox. And then Ernie Rabatini, he was the equipment manager for Deerfield High School. Now, here's a guy, he's the Bears equipment manager, and he was our equipment manager at Deerfield High School. He had 2 jobs, and he was in his 60s to 70s. And he was incredibly good to me, and we would talk, and he would explain everything. But he was the Bears head equipment manager. That's how Kevin Lefevre took over, working with Ernie. Ernie mentored him, and he took over equipment manager for the Bears. And Kevin had 2 jobs. He did Deerfield High School and the Chicago Bears. And he became the announcer at sporting events, too. So he did one more than Ernie. He had 3 jobs, Kevin. And I always liked Kevin. Now, the kids didn't like him as much, but I respected him, and he built a good career. And he became equipment manager for the Bears, equipment manager for Deerfield High School, and a 3rd job, announcer for the basketball games and that. And I would see him as my niece, Lisa, did the basketball games, and he would be doing the announcing. So, again, he had 3 jobs. He did one better than Ernie, truly. But the thing is, you have these ability to do this, and that's how he made his money, and it allowed diversification, so he didn't get tired dealing with high school kids and their coaches compared to dealing with, a professional organization. And he enjoyed the work. So you keep on thinking multiple jobs are horrible things. He really loved it. And Frankie, who ran the cage, and all those people that were older, and they were much older. And again, Frankie did the uniforms. We had uniforms for gym class and everything. And it was nice. They washed them and everything, took care of all that. So again, the one thing they could have done better is made it mandatory you turned in your uniform, because some people kept them in their lockers and they would freaking reek. I always got a fresh uniform. But the whole point is that these people worked late into their life, and they enjoyed dealing with different groups of people. So to them, it wasn't stressful. They were good at what they did. And so when you're good at what you do, things don't become as stressful. They come to you, like my friend who used to program at Microsoft, I mentioned before. He was so good at coding that it was never stressful to him. And he put on time pressure on himself, but it wasn't stressful. Truly. So when you're exceptional at things and you seek this, things become less stressful. They become more natural. So you reap what you sow. When you're not good at things, things become very stressful. When you're good at things, even when you're working long hours, it actually takes less energy to do it, and it becomes more peaceful, more tranquil, and you're more into it, and you love what you do. You have a passion for it, which is another thing. Like, I had to figure out how to do paperwork. I hated paperwork. Filling out the forms was tedious and that, and then they came up with the different systems, Laser App and others, that would pre-populate the form, and then I would get my assistant to pre-populate forms and taking off what I had to fill in. So it was more just signing pages than filling out all the paperwork. So Laser App can be moved into the police department and all that. They can integrate into other forms and it prints it off. Like McCain, we had leathers where we would be able to amend them, but they were formatted leathers, and then we used the format and it would record the things that we amended in the letter, and it took off filling in everything. And so you say AI, well, we used a lot of templates, and we would just customize the template. So again, they have to figure out how they're going to compete, but doing this, making smart templates, and they can integrate AI into smart templates too, so the templates don't have to go away. So again, it's this synergy between the human, the AI, and other structures. And so it just creates a third-party middleman that helps both sides work better and creates more efficiency. But you need the legal departments to approve the letters, and that's why they use certain formats. And in that, I had to do that to send to clients. All my letters had to go through compliance. And then through compliance, they could go out to the customer. So I would put them all together and then send them up to compliance, and we would have a conversation if there was a correction needed, why it was needed, how we can correct it, because I want to communicate in a certain way. And so we made this out. It's just like I had this with compliance, like we can't touch life insurance proposals. So what do? We can change the page order, and then I would give another copy that was in order, and so 3 copies I'd have. And one was for the client that had everything in order, another one I had out of order, and I could highlight that one. And then I keep that as my copy, so 2 copies. But I could start with any page, and I could highlight it and mark it up. And the client is free. Here's their page. They can flip along. So I open their page to page 7. I'm starting with page 7. You're free to mark up anything I say. I can't mark it up, but if you want to highlight, that's fine with me. And I would present that because I wanted to get through all the legalese and everything and right to why you're buying the policy. And then I would back into the legalese. But again, you're going to do delivery and you have to go over all the legalese anyways, the surrender period and everything else. But the funny thing is, I didn't have people surrender policies. And I told them after a certain amount of years, if we need to, we can reduce the policy. So with term life and that, after I think how many years, it's a few years, you could reduce the face value if you want. If things change, you don't need as much, you don't need to cancel the policy, and it works well for the insurance company. Instead of people lapsing on policies, what do you think underwriters in that love me? Is because I kept things enforced. I don't have people dropping their stuff. I tell them we just have to wait through to amend it, and then we can reduce the policy, and you can keep the policy enforced. So instead of surrendering the policy, and I tell them about the different benefits that are you're through this, dispute period, and the policy's enforced, and you have these other benefits with inside, accelerated death benefit and many other things. And so don't get rid of the policy. And so when I wanted to give somebody new insurance, and this is what I did, I collapsed whole lives to paid up whole lives. Do you know you can reduce the death benefit and restructure a whole life policy to paid up whole life? So I wanted to move to new premiums, and then once it was a paid up whole life, I can redirect the dividends from that to pay for the new policy as well. But I had to do the calculations. Sometimes it's better to keep the dividends within the policy. Other times it's better to pay them out and use them to pay for the other policy. So you're always seeing which the client is better for, and you're moving these around, and you're an asset manager. But they don't do life insurance right, truly, or annuities right. It's not a sit it and forget it, truly. And you have to understand, these are asset management tools, and they go into the portfolios. And this works with the Chicago Board of Trade, because all that life insurance are using different forms of bonds. Variable uses securities, and that's Chicago Stock Exchange. So again, it is a way to manage things, but you have to understand how to manage them. So it creates very good things when you seek excellence and you know what you're doing. And so things come more natural to you. Like, that's what a girl with a boy is supposed to be. And things are supposed to come more natural. But as we disband that and go into these alternatives, then
there are police reported ahead.
Then the male-female relationship becomes less natural, and you get all these identity crises and that boom suicide rate. See, I was a person who sat back and let the LGBTQ flourish. And I watched for decades. I wanted to see what happened. And suicide rate...
There's a crash on I-94 between exits 37B and 39B that is causing a delay. You can avoid it by going via Lincoln Avenue, which saves 2 minutes.
Okay.
If you prefer to stay on the current route, tap no thanks.
That's good. I don't have to do anything. So, again, I watched, and then I started giving Pete the numbers and that and pulling them up. And I said, it doesn't work.
In half a mile, take exit 37B for Illinois
worse.
58 East, Dempster Street.
More suicide, more mental instability, more negative across the board. It didn't work. Truly, John Hancock had something, Mutual of Omaha had something for them, and I went and watched and saw and waited and spent decades. It just doesn't work. So my conclusion is never going to change. It's not like theirs, it's an overnight thing. I studied it for numerous decades, going back to the 80s, maybe the 70s actually.
Take exit 37B.
Is this 30? No, next one. But it doesn't work. And if we work on the synergy between male and female, and that'll bring down domestic violence rates. If you watched LGBTQ, it brought up, they had domestic, but it brought up domestic violence rates in the heterosexual community. Go pull them. And you will see domestic violence rates. Because it became less natural, less synergy between males and females. When you get better synergy, domestic violence goes down systematically. So, again, it changes things. things. And so it doesn't work. So I'm never going to change. So anyways, we need to work on building this synergy back, which was broken in the Garden of Eden between Eve and Adam. Because Eve broke down and then convinced Adam, and Adam was supposed to rebuke Eve, and he didn't. He failed, she failed, they failed. And we've been suffering ever since. So again, the system, as I told now, women will burn. This is their last chance. They have to rebuke. And men have to be supporting. And the system needs to work correctly.
Go past North Lockwood Avenue and turn right onto Grosse Pointe Road.
So anyways, I'm going to leave the video, but the system needs to work so you don't understand the Bible and the failures. And God's seeing if you can overcome your challenges and work them out
Turn right onto
correctly.
Grosse Pointe Road. Then at the next light, you'll turn left.
So you need to think about this. And I haven't heard a pastor ever talk about this. They talk about the traditional story, but not why it needs to be reversed. And why God is waiting.
At the light, turn left onto Laramie Avenue.
For these things to be reversed. So, again, that's part of repentance. You don't get it. So, expanding and keeping, you're not repenting. You're literally telling God to go F himself. Undoing it and unwinding it is repentance. And keeping it unwound is staying repentant. Yeah. She looked cute. But anyways, so I'm going to let the video go.